Well, I was born in LaGrange and lived here until I went off to college, which was at Auburn University. And after I graduated from Auburn, I started teaching in the state of Alabama. Taught there for a number of years, then moved to North Georgia and taught for a number of years, and eventually in 1990 came back to LaGrange, which has been my home ever since. So I came here because I left teaching and didn't know what I wanted to do and just could not decide. My brother was living here and said, "Come to town, we'll start a business." So I came to town, we started a computer drafting business in 1990, and I've been here ever since. So we started this business, and then along the way, one of my clients that I was doing contract work for, Skip Smith, hired me. Skip is the local architect for Smith Design Group, and Skip hired me to work for him full-time. For about 20 years, I worked for Skip and retired at 65 from working with Smith Design Group. And since then, I've been directing the LaGrange Community Band and the First Baptist Church Orchestra. So I consider myself both a draftsman and designer as well as a musician, but my real love is conducting bands and orchestras. That's really what I love doing. In 2010, Downtown LaGrange Development Authority came to me and said, "We'd like to have a band play for the 4th of July to kick off our July celebration." They said, "Would you put a group together for us?" So with some help of some friends, we put a small group together and we played on the square a few days before the 4th of July. After that, we just started inviting more friends to join us and more friends to join us. And eventually it became a yearly thing, and we're about 50 members strong now. We play about 4 concerts a year: Christmas concert and a 4th of July concert, a spring concert, and sometimes, usually we play for the Lafayette birthday celebration in downtown LaGrange. So conducting a band or an orchestra is my real love. It's hard to explain the feeling you get when 50 people are working together to create something, and they're all in sync to make something enjoyable to the audience. It's hard to, if you haven't experienced it, it's hard to explain. But for me to be able to do that in places like Sweetland Amphitheater, which I also had a hand in developing and designing when I worked for Skip Smith, that makes it even extra enjoyable for me. So I just love conducting. I have always been a person who bores easily. Because of that, I've always had lots of irons in the fire, doing either 1 or 2 careers and 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 hobbies at the same time. I always enjoyed performing, so one of the things I enjoyed was stage work. I've done a lot of stage plays with just about every local community theater you can name around here. I've done a lot of different shows with the LaGrange College Theater, the LSPA here in LaGrange, the New Horizon Theater in West Point, and Springer Opera in Columbus, and then a couple of movies along the way as well. There's just something about being on that stage that the audience is counting on you to entertain them. I started doing theater, I guess, when I was 4 years old. LaGrange High School had an Easter fashion show, and they wanted somebody to model little boys' clothes. So my brother and I, at 4 and 5 years old, went on the stage to model little boys' suits for Easter. And we had to do a talent, though. So we stood on the stage and quoted, "Bad, bad black sheep, have you any wool?" And when we did, the audience, of course, as they do for young kids, they applauded. We really liked that. So we said it again, "Bad, bad black sheep, have you any wool?" Then they applauded louder. So we did it again. And we did it so many times, they finally had to come out and drag us off the stage. So my beginning on the stage was at 4 years old, and I've been loving it ever since. I met my wife when she was a teacher here in LaGrange. She was the band director for the junior high schools here in LaGrange, and I was here student teaching at the high school. I had changed my major from architecture to music, so I was later getting my degree than I would have if I had started out in music. She came to the high school wanting to get someone to come and rehearse her band before going to festival that year, which is a very common thing that directors do. And so the high school director asked her to ask me to come rehearse her band for a festival. So she did, and I went over and rehearsed her band before going to festival, and they made superior ratings that year, and that's how we met, and I never dated anybody else again since. So that was a long, long time ago, but we have just passed 49 years married, and we'll celebrate 50 next summer. And it's been a great 50 years, great 50 years. LaGrange is a great place to live. When my wife and I came back here in 1990, we thought we'd only be here for a couple of years, and we would go back to Rome, Georgia, which is her home. 30 years later, we're still here. 32 years later, I guess it is, and we're still here. What I like about LaGrange is that it's large enough to have these great arts venues, dance, theater, music, all kinds of things, but it's small enough that almost everywhere I go, there's someone who knows me well enough to call me by my first name. Those two things together make it just a great place to live. I'm Neal Brumbeloe, and I am the story of LaGrange.